Please welcome Director of Product Marketing at Riskified, Ephraim
I'm Ephraim Rinsky. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Riskified. And I want to talk to you about strategies for increasing conversion rates while still, of course, balancing that with risk management. So the issue is this. Your fraud teams do a great job of raising approval rates and of stopping fraud. But a frustration that we continue to hear from our merchant partners is that despite all of their efforts, they know that there's still a gap between the number of good customers who get to checkout and want to check out and the number of customers who actually do successfully check out. And they want to close that gap. So one of the reasons that happens is false declines. So I think we're all familiar with this, probably on a personal level. Show of hands, anybody here experienced a false decline? Maybe we all have a story, yeah. Here's my story. About 9 months ago, I was traveling abroad, and I was on the phone with my fiance, and I said something stupid. And after I got off the phone, I realized I'd screwed up, so of course, I had to order her flowers. So I Googled places in the area near us. I looked at some reviews. I found a store that you're probably all familiar with, but they're not sitting in this room. And I ordered flowers, and I was declined. I tried for my phone, I tried for my computer, and I got declined 3 times. Of course, let's call that merchant A. I Googled a little bit more, and I found merchant B, and merchant B approved my order, and they got my business. So merchant A lost that sale. But they didn't just lose, the cost of that sale. First of all that research that I'd done in finding their business was a result of investment they'd made in marketing, and effectively that was lost because they got me all the way through the funnel, but I couldn't check out. And then on top of that, that's not the last time that I've bought her flowers, right? I screw up probably once or twice a quarter, and all those subsequent flower orders have also come from merchant B because I've got an account set up there, and it's very easy. And finally, this reputational damage component. Now, I'm a nice guy. I didn't take to TikTok after I was initially rejected, but some people do. And it's hard to quantify that damage, but I think we all intuitively understand how much that hurts your brand to have people out there on the internet complaining that they were falsely declined. So the 3 reasons that these good customers aren't able to check out. So the first, false declines internally by a merchant's fraud team. So fraud is not a black and white situation. It's a risk distribution, and it's just a statistical reality. There are often good orders that simply are too risky to safely approve for your store. The second reason is imprecise use of friction. So as an example, some merchants always ask for a CVV code, those 3 numbers, when you check out. Usually it's not a big deal. But there are plenty of cases, where the customer left their wallet at home, doesn't have their card with them, and can't remember their CVV code. Okay, well, they can't check out. They're going to go to a competitor. And the last reason is that the order isn't authorized by the bank. Now, banks are understandably risk-adverse. If somebody steals your credit card and then goes and shops with it, and your bank authorizes it, that's a really big deal, right? So banks are very scared of that situation. Furthermore, they simply don't have the same amount of data to make a decision that either Riskified or your fraud team does. And so put those 2 things together, and authorization rates are probably lower than they should be, and a lot of really good orders fail authorization. All right. So the result of this is that your fraud team is probably working to optimize and optimize and optimize, but they hit a plateau eventually, and those conversion rates that they arrive at are just not quite as high as they should be, despite all of their efforts. Now, last year, if you were here, you heard our co-founder and CTO, Asaf, talking about part of our new product vision, which is tackling exactly this problem. How can we raise conversion rates while managing risk? So I want to show you now some of the progress we've made in the last year, along with a few partners that are sitting in this room. Actually, after I speak, I'm going to hand it off to Paul Woosley from Macy's, who's going to talk about Macy's approach to tackling this issue. So we wanted to build this product. This is our goal here is to build a product that boosts conversion rates without sacrificing risk management. Sounds great. How do we do it? The key is understanding, in a very nuanced sense, the risk of every order. So most orders can be safely approved. Then there are orders which are clear fraud. They need to be declined. Now, the first part of a conversion optimization strategy is making sure that those really blatant orders are declined before the bank. Right? If you are sending a less risky population of orders to the bank, then they say, okay, this is a safer order population. I'm willing to take a little bit more risk in authorizing. And so authorization rates go up. And so friction is only used kind of in this middle ground, but the key here is to use exactly the right kind of friction for exactly the right kind of situation. So for example, if you understand that the nature of risk here is account takeover, right? That's the MO in question. Then a really good kind of friction to use is CVV code, because the customer has saved the card in their account, right? And the fraudster breaks into the account, and they don't know the CVV code. However, if the risk that you're concerned about is a stolen credit card, right? Somebody bought the orders on the dark web, and they're going to your store to shop, CVV code is not an effective friction method, right? Because they very likely stole the CVV code along with the rest of the card details. So it's not just about knowing when to use friction or not, it's about using exactly the right kind based on the type of risk that you suspect. So how do we do that? For over a decade, Riskified has been honing our core models to ask one key question, which is this order legitimate or fraudulent? What we're building now is a model to answer a second question. If this order is in that gray area, the question is, how can we get this order to convert, assuming that it's actually legitimate? How do we give this risky order the greatest possible chance of converting if it's actually a legitimate order? So we call this product, which answers two questions instead of one, adaptive checkout. And this is what you get. You get boosted authorization rates. And instead of making binary yes-no fraud decisions, you get a whole toolbox so that you can give exactly the right kind of treatment to every order based on the risk profile. Now here is what we consider to be kind of the ideal configuration, the fullest state of adaptive checkout, which gives you the greatest chance of converting an order. Just to go through it very quickly. So we can check for orders pre-auth. Remember, that's critical to check before they go to the bank. And there we can either allow it to go to the bank or use selective friction as needed, or critically, if it's really bad, to make sure it never goes to the bank. Then it goes to the bank for authorization. And then after authorization, you actually have some more data to work with. And so depending on your payment flow and your fulfillment flow, it may be a really good idea for Riskified to do a second review there and either approve it or use selective friction as needed, or again, to decline it. Now, that previous configuration, that's kind of the Happy Meal, but you don't have to eat the whole Happy Meal to enjoy lunch. So here's what I mean. We've been working with many merchant partners in the last year to sort of implement this, and even just taking a few components of adaptive checkout without the whole suite is resulting in great conversion rate lift for a lot of merchants. So just to call two out, so this luxury merchant, just by putting in the pre-auth analysis component, has enjoyed an over 2% lift in conversion rate, thanks to, again, the fact that we're cleaning up the traffic before it goes to the bank. And the fact that when we're setting pre-auth, because of our partnerships with issuers, we're actually able to share order data with them. So not only are we cleaning up the population, but also we're giving them more data to make a confident decision. One more call out in this ticketing merchant, so they put in the pre-auth analysis, and they got the ability to send an OTP, a one-time password, when needed. So thinking about my situation when I was ordering flowers, if instead of getting declined, I could have gotten a ping on my phone with a one-time password to confirm my identity, I would have done that, and then I would have had my order approved. Now, we've heard from the partners that we've been working with that along with raising conversion rates, it's very important to understand exactly how conversion rates are rising so that both you can fine-tune risk at your store, but also to report to the rest of your organization exactly what's happening. So we're creating a dashboard that gives you a bird's eye view of conversion rate across your store. And we've also heard from fraud teams that they often need to dig in to a single order to really understand the way that Riskified's machine learning evaluated risk for this order. So now you can do this with our risk explainability feature. And so far, our design partners have really enjoyed this module. And we're rolling this out gradually through 2025. So to summarize what it takes to safely boost conversion rates, first of all, it's about rethinking fraud prevention. Risk management is just one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is increasing conversion rates. It's about giving yourself the best possible chance of converting an order by looking both at orders before they go to the bank and after. It's about moving from yes-no decisioning to giving yourself a full toolbox for dealing with each order, and flipping potential false declines into approved transactions with a precise response to the risk level. So thank you very much.